my name's Grandad. Hello everybody and welcome back to this week's vlog. First off, I'd just like to, we would like to say a big thank you to everybody that watches and subscribes and presses the like button, and also to some fantastic comments we've had over the last few weeks. Well, all the time really, we've had some great comments, really positive stuff, so thank you very much for all that. Today I'm fitting the Calorifier, which is the stored water, hot water cylinder for the boat, and also running the hot and cold water pipes along the side wall of the port side of the boat. But first off, we've got to get the walls up at the rear of the boat where the pipework and the calorifier is going to sit. The two small holes are for power sockets, and the larger hole is for the skin fittings, which are going to come from the kitchen sink and the washing machine. Few fine adjustments and a little bit of fettling, and it fits like a chicken's lip. Only fitting the lower section of the bulkhead wall onto the engine bay at the moment, just so that we can get the calorifier in to get some hot water. Eventually the calorifier is going to be removed when we actually get the engine pipework and the air dispatcher or diesel heater pipework through to feed the calorifier.
So like usual, I'm just giving the top side of this wood an undercoat, and I'll give it a couple of coats of paint before we start putting the pipework in, but finish that when the kitchen goes in. And then on the reverse I'll just put some varnish, again the yacht varnish, just for protection. Right, it's take two for these electric sockets. When I first marked them out, I didn't allow for the 12-volt cable trunking that sort of run along the back, and it was going to make the distance between the 230 and the 12-volt too close. You really need quite a big gap on that, so we're just making some new boxes, and there's right out the way now, aren't they?
Yeah.
We're just adding the cable at the moment, but in a future vlog you'll see us do a bit more on the 230 volt.
As with the rest of the boat, I'm just adding some thermowrap insulation to the bulkhead wall. This is just going to be joined on to the overlap we've left behind this kitchen wall side and above and below the gunnel. We just leave a little overlap at the tops and the sides, so that when we do the rest of the side of the boat, we can just take those joints up to that. So just sealing it with a silver foil tape as the rest of it really, just to make sure there's no air gaps in there. Bit fiddly underneath the gunnel, but yeah, you get there in the end. And then once that's in, the bulkhead wall will be attached there. As you can see, we're going to be fitting this calorifier now, so we can have some hot water on the boat. This is a 55 litre stainless steel calorifier. You can get copper, you can get stainless steel, but we've gone for it's a little bit more pricey than the copper one by about 50 quid or so. But anyway, this is stainless steel, and the reason for that is because we're having a diesel heater, and it's also going to be run from the engine, because the diesel heater works quite hard.
And without getting too technical, a stainless is better for that. So we've gone for the stainless option. And you've got, as you can see, there's 4 connections on here. You can get them with 2 connections, but this is because it's going to be heated from the engine as well as our diesel heater. We haven't decided on the make of that at the moment, but it's going to be a diesel heater of a sort. So there's going to be 2 pipes that come from the engine, and they'll come round and into the bottom 2 connections on there. And if you rub your finger along these, you can see that the 2 bottom ones are different, and they're called like barbed, because they're going to have like a rubber, high temperature rubber hose on those. So to make a better connection, so that there's not a tendency for them to pull away, although there will be Jubilee clips on there, they're designed for sort of rubber hoses, if you like. So you run the 2 pipes from your engine, one in and one out, a hot in and then the return. It's basically a flow and return, so the flow will come into the coil, round a coil of stainless inside, and back out to go back to the engine to be reheated, and it just circulates round in a loop. And the same will happen with the Eberspacher or Basto or whatever we decide on. That's going to be in the engine bay as well, so they will come through as well. So there'll be 4 pipes, 2 into the bottom from the engine, 2 into the top from the diesel heater, and the same idea. You get the hot in and the cold going back to be reheated, so it flows through another coil in there. So it's a twin coil cylinder or calorifier.
So what it actually is a water heater.
Yeah, it's basically these 2 connections, these 4 connections don't come in contact with any of the hot water that you get from your tap. It's basically a coil of pipe that goes in there and out there, so it runs in a coil inside. So the coil sits inside this cylinder, and then the heat transfers from the heat going through the coil, and it transfers into the cold water that's inside there, and then it'll heat the cold water up that's inside there and produce hot water.
Okay.
So yeah, at the bottom you've got that's where the cold water supply comes into the calorifier to fill this the entire inside of this calorifier with water. And they've got a little drain cock on there as well, so if ever you need to drain it off, it's a point to drain it.
Okay.
So your cold water is going to come from your tank, wherever it be, at the front, back or whatever. Ours is at the front of the boat, so it's going to come from the boat, from the tank, through all the gubbins that you've seen on a previous vlog where we plumbed the tank in, and the cold water pipe's going to run along the boat, and then it's going to enter just there, and basically it just fills that full of cold water. And then out the top you've got this setup here, and basically it's a mixer valve on there. It just prevents scalding, so that your hot water outlet is temperature controlled.
Oh, okay.
That's why on our shower, you can just see on another previous vlog when we did the bathroom, we've just got a standard shower mixer with no thermostat on it, because this is going to do our temperature controlling for the hot water. So there's no chance of the kids being in there and getting scolded by turning it on too hot, because it can't be turned on too hot.
Right.
Because it's being controlled from here.
Yeah.
So when you feed the cold in the bottom, you'll also need to take a connection across and into the cold. It's labelled on here, you can't see from where you are, but it just says C and H. So you bring your cold water along as well and into here, so that when you draw hot water from this calorifier, instead of it just coming straight out and being a hot feed, it's actually being what they call blended by this cold water being in there as well. So it mixes the cold and the hot together and gives you a predetermined temperature, which is you set on this knob at the side here, I think the maximum you can go 65, and I think the lowest it goes is about 40, 45. We'll probably be setting it to about 60. So your cold water will come in and your hot water will come out the top of there, and it'll merge together so that when you turn your hot tap on, it mixes the cold and the hot together to give you a predetermined temperature from there, and then that exits from there and then disappears and goes down to feed your hot tap for your kitchen sink and your wash hand basin, etc, etc, etc. Whatever hot outlets you've got on your boat, they'll come off off there. And then at the back of here we've also got a 1 kilowatt immersion, which will be used only offshore power really, but we are actually looking into they call it a solar dump, so that when your solar's finished charging your leisure batteries up, that spare power that it's generating once your batteries are full can be diverted and come into there, so that it'll give us hot water through the immersion. Also, say when we're travelling, which we're going to be travelling continuously, every time we run the engine, you'll be getting hot water through the bottom connections off your engine anyway. So that's when we were using the washing machine, etc.
Okay.
So yeah, that needs to be wired up to a switch on the wall, and then to the fuse board on the opposite side of the boat. This pit here is because it's sort of pumped water, if you like, or whatever. If the temperature inside here gets too much, or the thermostat on your immersion heater stays open, it doesn't switch off, so it continuously tries to heat the water up, it needs to have an escape, if you like. So this is a pressure relief valve, and you can determine the two, because one's black. The black one's for controlling your hot water temperature, and the red one is sort of your alarm button, if you like. And this, if you just turn that, it clicks like that. And what will happen is, if there is a problem and that does become too hot and boils, that then opens up and then lets the hot water that's too hot run away from the cylinder, and then once it's reduced down, it'll click back off again. So if it does sort of boil, you often hear this going click, 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 and you know there's a problem, because that'll be venting to outside through the skin fitting. So yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to run, say, a cold into the top of the cylinder, cold into the bottom, and then the hot out for the hot taps.
Okay.
So
Let's get to it.
yeah, just going to put some of these, the clips on the wall, which will be for the hot and cold pipes. They're going to come down the wall, and you buy them in singularly. You buy them in a pack of 50 or 100 or whatever, but they come sort of in a singularly like this. But if you need to double them up, you've got like little lugs on there and lugs on there, and then you can just slide one into the other to create 2, or you can create 3, or you can create, you know what I mean, you can do, or make
Keep
4.
going.
Yeah, just keep adding on, if you like. Yeah, it's a bit more awkward to add two and another one on there because of the way the clips go, but you can do it the opposite direction. I'll just show you. Instead of those closing that way, if you turn it the opposite way for the third one, you can put one onto there and then one onto this side if you wanted 4, and just keep going.
Oh.
Yeah, so dead standard stuff. So yeah, we're going to put some double clips along the bottom at low level to run across and down to the back of the boat, so we've got hot and colds going that way, and then we're using speed fit, push fit basically, various makes, Hecto or Tektite or whatever. Anyway, we're going first speed fit. Just, yeah, because they're readily available and tried and tested. And all you do is the core push fit, and that's all you do, push them on and fit them. And these have got little O-ring inside and all the rest of it. So what you do with those is you've got like a screw on there, so you loosen that off so it's easy to push onto the pipe, and then just basically put it on there, push it home, and when you've got it in place, just give it a tighten up there, and that's it now. It's fixed into place. So we need a short bit of pipe now to go across here, and that's going to go to a T-piece. Which is going to go like that. So it's going to carry on there and come up for the cold, and then go down there to pick up the water from the tank at the back of the boat. This is speed fit pipe as well, and it's a barrier pipe, and it comes in a coil, but this is what they call lay flat. You might see it on there. Well, it is speed fit. It's a barrier pipe, polybutyl pipe. It just gives you all the classifications on the back really, but this is what they call lay flat, so that the other ones that are coming in a coil that aren't lay flat, they sort of try to go back to a coil all the time because they've been in a coil for a while, whereas this, once you've sort of straightened it up, it sort of stays more rigid, if you like. You know what I mean? Sort of statement carries, it keeps the straightness, if you like. It's a bit stiffer pipe really. One thing I would say to you as well as a bit of a tip is if you're measuring off, say, I'll show you on this a bit easier just to show you. Your finished length of pipe, finishes are sort of on that collar there, if you like, there and up to there. So you measure between the two. But if you are using, and I do suggest, well, I recommend that you do use the inserts, you've always got to allow that little bit taken off each, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So if you measured it, you have to take that bit off the length of the pipe. Otherwise it's don't fit. Right, and this bit is going to be the short bit between those two. Same again, push it home, just tighten it up. It's going to go behind there, and that will go into there. there'll be a pipe running from the front of the boat, from the hot water, from the cold water tank, storage tank, and that'll come straight from the end of the boat, and it'll come straight into this fitting there. It'll come down to this isolation valve, which will always be left in the on position unless there's any snags. And the reason we put that there is so that we can shut that off if ever there's a problem with the calorifier. Turn that off and it switches off the cold water that goes into this calorifier, just as so we can leave the cold water tank full at the front of the boat. And then it comes out the bottom of this valve, tees off and goes into the bottom of the calorifier to fill the calorifier with cold water. But also it continues across and up and comes across into the mixer valve on top of the cylinder or calorifier, so that when you draw hot water from the inside of your, once your water's hot, your hot will come out of here and go that way into this mixer valve, which you set with a thermostat, well, with the temperature on the front. And then as you set that, it'll blend the cold water with the hot so that you get the desired temperature coming out your hot tap. So that's going to exit from there, go across and up to an expansion vessel that's going to sit on the wall, but also it'll tee off and then it'll continue back down to run alongside this cold pipe. So you've got a cold coming from the front to the back, and then a hot coming from the back to the front, and this will go off to all the hot taps in the boat.
And what about once we've got the engine in?
Once we've got the engine in, as the engine runs, there'll be two rubber hoses, high temperature hoses, that will come from through this bulkhead at the back where the engine bay is. They'll come through the bulkhead and they'll feed round to these two bottom barbed connections on the bottom of the calorifier, and the hot will come in, flow through the coil inside, which doesn't actually directly come in contact with the water in there. It's just basically if you imagine a copper pipe that's been bent into a spiral, and it comes back out there. So it goes in hot, goes through the calorifier, comes back out, and then that bottom pipe returns to the engine, so it's going circulating round in a circle.
Yeah.
The same top connections are for the diesel heater, which is also going to be in the engine bay, and same as the bottom two connections, there'll be a flow and return, a hot and a cold if you like. The hot pipe will come into the calorifier, circulate through the coil of a stainless steel coil, come back out the bottom to go back to the diesel heater to be reheated, and it just circulates around in a circle like that. Hot coming in, cold out, hot, cold, and as the hot comes in, it transfers the heat from that coil into that water stored in this calorifier.
Okay. And the reason why we didn't have a copper?
They do a copper coiled one, a copper calorifier and a stainless steel, and we had the stainless steel one purely and simply because we're having a diesel heater, and it is sort of recommended or preferred, I think. Well, I know that it's preferred to use a stainless steel coil for an Eberspacho or diesel heater, because the diesel heater runs quite hot. Yeah, anyway.
Why that it works? It's better.
It prolongs the life of the cylinder.
Right.
The other ones can fail. The copper ones, the lifespan is less.
Okay.
The tendency to fail quicker, if you like.
If you're using a diesel heater,
yeah. So that's what we've gone for. And just mention that this is the pressure relief. So if there is a build-up of pressure in there, it doesn't carry on expanding and it's got nowhere to go. It exits through this pipe, which is set to it's about a 4 bar. It exits through there, and that'll go to the outside of the boat through a skin fitting.
Okay. I think I've got it.
Yeah, and this one is it's just a 1 kilowatt immersion heater, which is powered by electricity wizardry, and that'll be ran off it'll be a an isolation switch on the wall, and if you're on shore power, you just heat it through the shore power 240 or 230 volts in the UK.
So this can be used on shore power and engine.
This calorifier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, if it's you've got 3 ways of heating your water really.
Right.
You've got your diesel heater, your engine, or 240 volts through there.
Right.
I think if you, I don't know about running it through an inverter, but I haven't really looked into that. But we won't be running it through an inverter.
No.
But we are looking into solar dumping. So, but we'll cover that when we do the solar.
Okay.
But basically, it uses the excess. Once you've charged your leisure battery bank off your solar power, if it's a really nice day, you've obviously gonna it only charges till the batteries are full. Then there's like a lot of excessive charge there, if you like, which then can be dumped into this immersion heater. But yeah, we're gonna look into that a bit more. So we're gonna come to do that.
Right.
And that's what we've got.
Space these pipe clips at 2 feet or 600mm centres. I just use a scrap piece of wood to mark a line on there, so that off the floor, so that I get all the spacings between the floor and the 2 pipe clips sort of even all the way along the boat, just so it's a horizontal run. It isn't like a donkey's hind leg going down the boat. But yeah, just space them at 600 centres all the way down the boat, and it does make quite a neat job of it. Where the green finishes is the end of the dinette, so the lighter blue wall is the kitchen wall. So what I've decided to do is bring the pipework a little higher here, just so that all these fittings and anything that's running in the back of the kitchen cupboards, we can then get through the back of the kitchen cupboard to get to any joints or anything in the future, rather than being in the kick space below the kitchen unit. We feed the hot and cold pipes through into the bathroom and behind into the vanity sink that we've got there, and it's just then a case of pushing into the fittings that are already there that we've put in when we did the bathroom unit. Once the hot and cold supplies are run down the side of the boat, it's now possible to fit those to the calorifier. So I'm just measuring off the bits of pipe here. This one's a hot that comes off the mixer, so that just pieces in with an elbow, and this bottom connection is the actual cold water feed to the calorifier, and they all just push in the same as the rest.
Right, we've got to the point now where we need to get, this is easy because this is just going to be a straight bit of pipe up the wall for the hot feed for the washer. We're going to have a hot and cold feed coming up here, just so that I know you can just get purely cold fill or whatever, but we'll have 2 points there while we're doing it. So basically that's going to be a straight piece of pipe running up the wall, which is easy, but you get a bit of a problem where you've got to cross these 2 pipes over. So if it was copper, you just put soldered fitting in and then a bent piece of pipe into it, but this speed fit is sort of not easy. If you bend it too tight there, it's going to just kink it. So to get around that, I'm going to use what they call stem elbow. You've probably seen these before, but for those who don't know, they're an elbow with where the pipe goes in this end, but this end, this is like a bit of pipe, so it'll go into this fitting. So that's a 90-degree one, so you pop that one into there and that takes you round that pipe. If you use another 90-degree stem elbow, I'll just use this as an example, it will make your pipe go that way, which is no good because you need it to go up the wall. So to get around that, if you get yourself a, what they call them 135s or 45 street elbow, depending on which way you go, on which angle you go, but the 135s I think they're shown in the shop, and that's the same principle as this 90-degree, apart from it's a different angle. So if you put that one into there, that now will take you over that pipe, and then it'll take you straight up the wall. So when you put your washing machine taps on, they'll just run parallel with each other up there, and then 2 taps for your washing machine just there, which I'm going to do now. So yeah, we're going to put a piece of pipe, will go up the wall there. And then just a isolation valve like for the washing machine to go onto, and that's just a 3/4 outlet where your washing machine will go onto, and then push fit fitting into there. So that's going to sit up here. It's not exact, so we'll put that just there and then do the other one the same. There's one. Going to fit the expansion tank, which is going to go on the hot water side of the calorifier, and as I said before, it just soaks up any expansion out of this tank when the hot water heats up. It's only a little 5-litre one, so nothing spectacular, but you need to get a mounting bracket, and then you get this huge, I mean this is like a universal thing that goes from anything from like a, I think it's 2 or 5 litre up to 25-litre vessel. So you just wrap that around to suit, and I'm just going to mount it just here. Yeah, about there. Just so that we can get to it from above, if ever we need to alter the pressure on it. So I'll mark this up, and then that's the expansion tank on now. I'll just run through exactly what it does. We've got two expansion vessels, or two vessels on our boat. One is fitted at the front, at the bow of the boat, which is the accumulator tank. It's the same principle, but they just do different things. The accumulator tank on the front of the boat is fitted on the cold water supply close to the cold water tank, storage tank. And the reason it's fitted there is because it absorbs and accumulates pressure, so that if you're only running your taps for a short spell of time, there may be enough pressure in that vessel just to pump the water through to the tap without the need for the pump to keep coming on and off. So if you haven't got one of those, you might find that, well, every time you turn your tap on, your pump's going to run. And hopefully with the setup we've got, it will eliminate a bit of that. Getting back to the expansion tank, it's fitted, this is fitted on the hot water side after the mixer on the calorifier, which is what Cal recommend. And the principal thing for that is it will soak up, because the water in the tank is going to be heated, it expands. So when it expands, it'll expand and go into here, and it'll absorb a bit of that expansion. And all you do with this is, on the top of this, there's like on your car tyres or your bicycle tyres or whatever, there's a little valve there with a needle valve inside, and it's preset. What I will have to do, may have to adjust that once we've got the hot water running, just to sort of stabilise the flow coming out of the tap. To do that, you just attach a little tyre gauge onto here, and see what it's set to. And if it's too high, you just press the little needle valve in and release a bit of the pressure, because it's actually there's like a seam on there, and inside that seam there's like an EDPM, like a rubber diaphragm, like a rubber seal, and as the water expands, it pushes on that seal, and inside here is a gas. So it's basically a dry cell at the top of there, and that'll be where the water is located in the bottom. So as the water heats up, it presses onto that rubber seal, and it just lets it flex and it absorbs that expansion. So if it's not fitted right, it won't absorb that expansion, or it'll be too low or too high, so it won't run right. But we'll cover that when we actually get the taps running. And then say all you do is you attach your gauge on there, and you can test and see what it's set to. This is preset to 2.7 bar, and it's a 5 litre, which is roughly about 10% of the volume of the cylinder. So yeah, and then all you do is, once you've done that, that's just a little goes on the front of there, and that's it, fitted.